Thank you. Madam Premier, looking at the document, much of what is contained in here, it would appear that Bermuda is seeking to have autonomy on a number of issues. As you yourself mentioned, self-determination, a lot of what is contained, you mentioned just short of self-determination, but a lot of what is contained in here, it would appear as if Bermuda is seeking autonomy from the UK on a number of areas, acting almost as an independent country while still an overseas territory. For example, negotiating with the airlines, speaking without permission from the UK at international fora and the like, but also then seeking to have British-UK assistance in negotiating and promoting the country overseas, seeking to ensure that Bermuda is not seen as a quote-unquote tax haven and the like. How do you respond to that?
I think that currently the view and the current position is that we are an overseas territory. And as such, as an overseas territory, there is an administering power, and the administering power is the UK. If that is a valid and subsisting relationship, then in the confines of being a colony, then certainly we are indicating that there are areas where there can be assistance to provide it. And we're certainly not asking for funding assistance. And that is the nature of the special relationship that the people of Bermuda at this time have opted to be in. So I think that I'm very clear, right now we are in overseas territory. But I think you also know that I'm very clear as to what the political party that I'm a member of and that I lead is in favor of. But that is not yet the position that the people of Bermuda are in. So within the confines of the relationship that we currently have, I think that we have always been recognized as different in some ways in terms of how we have operated. I think that the constitution that we have is probably a much more mature and developed constitution. For instance, when we meet in this place on Tuesdays, the governor doesn't sit where I'm sitting right now. For many of the overseas territories, the governor is actually part of cabinet. In fact, if you follow, as I'm sure you do, the issue that's happening in one of the overseas territories, and it was quite an issue raised while we were at the Overseas Territories Consultative Committee, you had a chief minister complaining because his Minister of Finance was being unilaterally removed and allocated to another area. And he felt that this was an act of sabotage on his government and on his leadership. And the very fact here, what you have in terms of cabinet government and even the way our public sector and our public service works, is that the governor doesn't allocate or decide where permanent secretaries sit or have the ability to just unilaterally remove permanent secretaries and transfer them there. We do have a public service commission which serves under the appointment, and certainly the appointments have to be run by Government House, and that's the committee. But it isn't that the governor decides who the PSs are, and the governor doesn't sit in cabinet and actually sign off on cabinet papers and cabinet decisions. So Bermuda has a different relationship, and many have, in fact, you've had probably over the last couple of years, you've even had a couple of the overseas territories get their constitutional amendments made, and some of them now are even known as, there are very few who are known as chief ministers these days. A number have now been known as and classified on the Bermuda model as premiers. So I think that Bermuda is seen as different. It doesn't change the fact that we are still an overseas territory, but we do have a more, I suppose, developed constitution. And I think that if you were in this, though it would be an anachronism, by that I mean it would be out of date in these times, if you were to have some new overseas territory, I doubt that they would be fortunate enough to have a constitution which is modeled on the Bermuda model. And that is why often what is said at these overseas territories, and I don't think it's a means of trying to stroke my ego, is the fact that they have said that Bermuda should take the lead. And it was interesting because basically I think in a room of men, the ministers would ask that I put a case for them because it was seen that we were more immune from any sort of retaliatory action or any sort of punitive action being taken. So Bermuda is seen as different.
Thank you so much for that, Simon.